Doctor Who has a pretty long and expansive history of Doctors. It's one of the only shows on TV where the main cast change and change time and time again. Today we're going to be focusing on him.
I call the Doctor.
Or him.
I'm the Doctor.
Or her. I mean, that's the great thing about this character. They can literally be played by anyone. There are countless fan film Doctors, expanded media Doctors, Doctors that never were, even Muppet Doctors. But don't worry, today I'm going to be sticking within the bounds of canon, if there is such a thing. My only criteria for this list is any Doctor Who has officially appeared in a BBC televised production. So yeah, for example, I'm counting Curse of the Fatal Death. And yes, let's just clear up, I did call him Doctor Who. Check the 2005 credits, check the 1970s credits, and then debate amongst yourselves in the comments. So join me today as I rank every single Doctor Who ever, apart from all the ones I'm not including on this list.
Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Let's just dive in. Who's at the bottom of this list? For all you pedantic people out there, I'm going to quickly run through a bunch of Doctors that don't even make it into the ranking but are technically canon. Right at the bottom, you have the Timeless Child incarnations. They're literally just random kids. Next to them, you've got Brendan. I mean, he's not even really the Doctor. He's just like an Irish guy that's not even real. Then Dr. Moon. If Brendan doesn't count, this guy certainly doesn't count. The Valyard. But he feels like his own thing entirely, so he's not going to be on this list properly. Then the Meta-Crisis Doctor. I mean, this list already has multiple David Tennants on it anyway, so let's not be greedy, we don't need another. Which brings us to the actual list. In last place, we have the Schalke Doctor. Now, this is definitely the most obscure addition to this list. But if you have a problem with this, don't take it up with me, take it up with Russell T Davies, because in last year's episode, Rogue, the Richard E. Grant Ninth Doctor was technically canonised for no apparent reason other than funny, innit? For those of you who aren't in the know, he's a half-canon, half-not-canon incarnation of the Ninth Doctor. His tenure only lasted for 6 weeks back in 2003, in an animated continuation of the show celebrating the 40th anniversary. However, this animated incarnation of the show was soon forgotten about as, well, this happened.
After a period of invisibility, Doctor Who is back, or will be at Easter.
Anyway, why is he at the bottom of this list? I mean, to put it simply, he's just not very good. I'll be honest, okay? I've never actually been able to bring myself to finish all 6 parts of Scream of the Schalke. Grant is a fantastic actor, don't get me wrong, but the characterisation of this Schalke Doctor is just bizarre. He's a little bit too pompous and upper class. He, loses that nice, bubbly, warm feeling that the Doctor usually has. Ultimately, he was just a placeholder for the real deal. Look, the vibes are just off. I can't fully explain it. Enough of that, let's move on to the more juicy ones. The carrot juicy ones.
Carrot juice?
It's your waistline I'm concerned about.
Carrot juice, carrot juice, carrot juice.
Look, I'm so sorry. It feels like a cliche to have Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor at the bottom of a Doctor rankings video. And I do feel bad because Colin Baker is genuinely such a lovely guy. Like, I've met him at Comic-Con and you couldn't wish to meet a nicer guy. Okay, sure, he did try and strangle me, which seems to be quite a theme with this Doctor, but he's still lovely. But if we're being entirely objective here, the Sixth Doctor just doesn't hit. His tenure was plagued with mixed writing and bizarre character choices, not to mention that costume. What on earth were they thinking? Which, once again, isn't Colin Baker's fault. He said in multiple interviews he wanted a costume akin to the Ninth Doctor's leather jacket, but instead he was given this monstrosity.
Wish Doctor Who would stop having a costume. Why can't he wear clothes? Why doesn't he wear what makes him unnoticeable in the environment in which he is?
I also find that overall his character is pretty one-dimensional. Similar to the Schalke Doctor, he lacks the warmth and depth that I really love to see in a Doctor. He doesn't go on much of an arc throughout his tenure either, which, to be fair, maybe that's because it was cut short by the evil Michael Grade. But compared to other Doctors on this list, his tenure just feels a bit static. I mean, from his first words to his last, he comes across as a pompous egomaniac. There's also one-liners like this,
Forgive me if I don't join you.
which just feel quite cheap. And also, why is he so violent? I can feel my inner Mary Whitehouse coming out here. But you can't do that to Perry. I will say, though, that although incredibly brief, Colin Baker's appearance in Power of the Doctor was really, really nice, and he did have that twinkle and that warmth in his performance in that episode. It's just a shame that it was kind of missing from his actual TV stuff. But it would be foolish of me to not mention here his Big Finish audio adventures, which many fans say redeemed the character. Now maybe you're going to have a go at me in the comments here, but I don't really listen to Big Finish, so I can't judge Colin Baker's Doctor on audio adventures that I haven't heard. I've heard really good things though, so I'm sure if I did listen to them, it probably fleshes out the character and I'd like him a lot more. But as it stands, I can't in good faith place Colin any higher on this list, and that's a shame. So Colin, I love you, but the Sixth Doctor's towards the bottom of this list. Number 17. What he did that day, he did in the name of peace and sanity. But not in the name of making it very high on this list, I'm afraid. John Hurt did a good job in the 50th anniversary, but it was just that, a good job. It's tricky to slate anyone who's ever played the Doctor because, I can't lie, there's never really been a bad casting. And I know it's kind of the whole point of the War Doctor incarnation, but he doesn't really feel like the Doctor to me. He isn't at all alien or quirky. You don't get the sense of, oh my gosh, this guy really isn't from our planet. He's just kind of like a grumpy old guy. I can't lie, I feel like he was almost too old to play the Doctor. Look, before you get angry, without any spoilers for this list, I love myself an old man as the Doctor. I struggle to explain this without feeling mean, but like, John Hurt's Doctor does not give me the vibe of a warrior. Like, he doesn't run, he doesn't do any of the cool sort of Doctor action. He just kind of stands around and grumbles. I feel like his performance is incredibly outshone by both Matt Smith and David Tennant in the 50th. And obviously all of this is kind of intentional because he's been through years and years and years of the Time War. He's sick of it. He's at the end of this lifespan, like he just regenerates out of old age at the end of the episode. But I don't know, I've just never really warmed to the War Doctor in any way. John Hurt is a fantastic actor. His performances in films like Elephant Man and Alien are just brilliant. But if truth be told, I just think he's not the perfect casting for the Doctor. He's not weird enough. He's almost too normal. Anyway, on to the number 16 spot. This is probably going to throw up more controversy, but I warned you I would include them on this list. In the number 16 spot, we have all of the Curse of the Fatal Death Doctors. Stop booing! It's an officially released BBC product. Just a quick bit of history for those of you not in the know. In 1999, a Children in Need special comedy thing entitled Curse of the Fatal Death was released. It saw Rowan Atkinson of Mr. Bean and Johnny English fame take on the titular Time Lord. It's a spoof while also being an absolute love letter to the show.
They're not breasts, okay? They're Dalek bumps.
Fun fact, it's also the first thing that Stephen Moffat ever wrote for Doctor Who. This special also sees, let me refer to my notes because I've tried to record this several times and keep forgetting one, Hugh Grant, Joanna Lumley, Jim Broadbent, Richard E. Grant, again, all take on the role of the Doctor. And I can't lie, if the show had actually carried on and not been cancelled, all of these guys would have played the Doctor brilliantly in my opinion. It's such a fun piece of Doctor Who media and genuinely up there with one of the best things the show's ever produced.
You fools! This tectonic beam controller will now not only explode, it will implode!
Genuinely, if you've never seen it, go and give it a watch. It's incredibly funny. In the number 15 spot, we've got the Doctor's daughter, who is now the Doctor's wife's father. Yes, that is correct. Look it up.
I mean, it is statistically quite unlikely. Yeah.
It's Peter Davison, the 5th Doctor. I once again want to highlight how shocked I am that I find this guy towards the bottom of the list, Everyone who's played the Doctor is so good because I love the Fifth Doctor's era. Season 18 and Season 19 are probably controversially two of my favourite seasons and the most engaged I've felt while watching classic Who. Davison brought a more soft, human side to the Doctor, especially when you remember that he's the incarnation directly after Tom Baker. The contrast between the two is shocking, but kind of what the show needed at the time. However, this more reserved approach, I'd argue, does make him feel a little less iconic. While Davison does have great moments like this bit in Caves of Androzani,
I'm not gonna let you stop me now!
which is rated as like the highest Doctor Who episode of all time, the writing often leaned into ensemble storytelling, which did occasionally end up making the Doctor feel like just another member of the TARDIS crew, rather than a confident all-eyes-on-him leader. He never quite had the commanding presence that most Doctors would attain. Not always, though, because sometimes he does absolutely command the room, like this bit in Earthshock.
When did you last have the pleasure of smelling a flower, watching a sunset, eating a well-prepared meal?
Irrelevant.
For some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about.
That being said, Davison's impact on future Doctors as well is just absolutely undeniable. Tennant has often cited him as an inspiration for the character, and he wasn't just sucking up to his father-in-law, like this happened back in 2005. And I'd also argue that this Doctor's more human approach paved the way for a lot of the human drama that we get in the modern series. He may not be a standout incarnation, but he's an absolutely necessary evolution of this character. What a king. Oh, and also I absolutely love the cricket vibes. Like, it's so English and bizarre, like, he's cool. Number 14. The next Doctor on this list suffers from very, very similar problems to what I've just said. While writing the script, I basically just rewrote a paragraph that I'd said a minute ago. In fact, I don't need to say it again, I can just replay the clip. The writing often leaned into ensemble storytelling, which did occasionally end up making the Doctor feel like just another member of the TARDIS crew, rather than a confident all-eyes-on-him leader. Yep, that's right, it's the 13th Doctor.
Bye, fam.
As evidenced by this video on my YouTube channel, I was filled to the brim with optimism back in 2017 when Jodie Whittaker was announced as the 13th Doctor.
That's actually quite cool. She looks like she could be the Doctor.
She does. As I said back then, she really did look the part, and I'd researched a bunch of her performances, and just watch this and tell me she wouldn't make a fantastic Doctor.
You dared to disobey the law.
Yes, I did. Because it's your law, not the law of God. Our lives are short. We have too little time to waste it on men and the laws they make. Don't be frightened for me. Fear for yourself. They are for today, yesterday, and all time. The approval of the dead is everlasting, and I shall bask in it as I lie among them. And no man's arrogance or power could make me disobey them.
13 was going to be the best Doctor ever, but alas. In a similar way to Colin Baker, the costume was also just an immediate red flag. It's just silly and kind of looks like something out of a kid's show. Like, look how dripped out Jodie looks in a costume like that. And this is what they ended up going for? Okay, I don't fully hate it in Flux when it looks like this, but I don't know, I don't think it works. And the lack of strong character development, with the overuse of exposition-heavy dialogue.
I'm sorry. I surprise time. Literally, we're in the heart of the time storm. Sheltering in broken time. Why? Time is pulling you back. I'm coming to get you. Broken and disrupted time. Everything is corrupted. Have to rescue them.
Really weighs the 13th Doctor down. It's strange though, because the show does set up a load of character and internal conflict.
Now that's what I call an inner conflict.
For the 13th Doctor to explore. Like the Timeless Child plotline, the death of Gallifrey again, the confrontation of Tecteun, her adoptive mother, her inability to ever open up to her companions. These are all really interesting themes which kind of just got left as subtext. They were never fully explored. And don't even get me started on how, like, Thasmin, if you will, was so underused. Like, the 13th Doctor and Yaz could have had a really interesting romance arc, but they kind of just, they sort of teased it and then gave up. One of the best scenes of 13's era is in a very controversial episode. If you'll allow me, before shouting, to say that Legend of the Sea Devils is actually an alright episode. Because of the final scene. That bit where 13 and Yaz are sat on the rocks talking about, like, I can't be with you, Yaz. Like, all of that is really, really nice. And should have actually gone somewhere. Explore it more. But instead, Yaz just kind of leaves the TARDIS in the next episode because, like, I don't know, her contract's up. I will say, though, 13 has my favourite ever regeneration scene. Those 3 minutes of Doctor Who I'm ever about to be, all of that, oh, it's so good. And also, fun fact while we're here, in the original script, Chris Chibnall wanted the 13th Doctor to go out like Luke Skywalker. She'd be sat cross-legged, basically levitating over that cliff while regenerating, which, I can't lie, change up the regenerations a bit. I'm here for that. It would be quite interesting to see. But yeah, the 13th Doctor remains in 14th place. Coming in at number 13, the owner of established fast food restaurant Pertwee's Burgers. Yes, that was a real thing, look it up. I mean, I've been there. It's not called Pertwee's Burgers anymore, but last year I found that my mate lived 3 doors down from it. He doesn't live there anymore, though, so don't try and stalk him. Anyway, back on track, the 3rd Doctor takes the 13th space. This incarnation was trapped on Earth and working for UNIT to save the world from alien invasion. He was a sort of dashing action hero. I'm sorry to subject you to a supercut of every Venusian Aikido usage, but I'm only realising now how this is definitely one of those moments where Doctor Who has something that's simultaneously the best thing in the universe and the worst thing ever created. I mean, what is this? He was a mixture of James Bond and a time-travelling scientist. With a very strong moral compass.
England for the English, good heavens, man. I have a duty to my country, not to the world.
A love for gadgets and an undeniable sense of authority. That's one of the things I love about the 3rd Doctor, is just the commanding presence. He owns every room he's in. And there's no doubt as to why UNIT and the companions actually listen to him. And I mean, people complain about Doctor Who being woke nowadays. Just go and watch the 3rd Doctor's era. He also often faced up against the brilliant Roger Delgado as the Master. These two on screen together they're just electric. However, the downside of the 3rd Doctor and the 3rd Doctor's era is that if you've ever tried to binge watch it, it feels really repetitive after a while. It's all set in UNIT and it's very like Monster of the Week formula, which isn't a bad thing. And at the time, I don't think that context would have mattered because kids weren't going to be binge watching. But being stuck on Earth for all that time does feel a little bit limiting when this character used to be off travelling all of time and space. Oh, and the Whomobile is simultaneously the best thing I've ever witnessed and genuinely the worst thing I've ever seen. But let me know your thoughts on the Whomobile in the comments. He is an icon though. I mean, his fashion sense has clearly inspired the 12th Doctor and the 15th Doctor, and just some of his line deliveries are so uniquely iconic to Jon Pertwee.
Madam, what year is this?
A true legend. In the number 12 spot, we have Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor.
Top of the morning to you, Joe. And the rest of the day to me.
McCoy's Doctor is one of the most fascinating evolutions of this character in the show's history. When he first arrived, his entire portrayal was kind of just comedic, over the top, a bit too slapstick for my liking. And his debut season was considered the weakest, or at least one of the weakest, eras of the show ever. I mean, to be fair, if you've watched Time and the Rani, what were they thinking?
The Rani! Stay back!
This is idiotic.
But then something incredible happened. As the show approached its cancellation, McCoy's Doctor became a lot darker.
Oh, Davros, I am far more than just another Time Lord.
a lot more mysterious. They really put the Who back in Doctor Who.
Every great decision creates ripples.
His final season, particularly in episodes like Curse of Fenric, really displayed a darker, more calculated and cold incarnation. A Doctor who was playing the long game, outsmarting his enemies in a way that no other incarnation ever did.
I wouldn't waste my time on her unless I had to use her somehow.
You can hear more about this in my podcast episode with the wonderful Sophie Aldred. That wasn't a shameless plug. That's incredibly relevant to this list. Go and watch it at some point. It's great. But these layers, this complexity, this journey of a character is one of the reasons that the Seventh Doctor really clicks into place for me. Because behind this bumbling fool who's falling around and doing stupid slapstick stuff is one of the most powerful and genuinely scary men you'll ever meet.
Come a little closer.
So you are.
Why? Scared? Why should you be scared? You're the one with the gun.
It's too difficult to explain here, but the Timeless Child arc was kinda gonna happen with the Seventh Doctor. But unfortunately, his era was cut short before it could reach its full potential. If the show hadn't been cancelled and had continued forward, who knows, maybe Sylvester would be much higher on this list as his arc would have felt more complete. Thankfully, like Colin Baker, the Seventh Doctor got so much more expanded media in audio dramas and Big Finish adventure forms. By the way, let me know if you want to see me make a video on the whole Cartmel master plan, which was where the show would have headed if it never reached cancellation, because I could do a proper deep dive into that if that's something you guys are interested in. Just going to quickly jump in here. If you are enjoying the video, please do feel free to drop a subscription, a like, and a comment to appease the almighty YouTube algorithm. Oh, and if you want exclusive content and early access to new videos, go and check out my Patreon. Link in description. Number 11. Now this one is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. People out there, get ready. If you're angry, get your keyboard, on your marks, get set. In the number 11 spot, we have Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor.
Just stand there and don't ask questions.
Now, this one is a really tricky one to put on the list because we haven't had enough material to properly gauge her as the Doctor. And maybe I'm kind of blinded by nostalgia and how excited I was when we saw that reveal in Fugitive of the Jadoon. But genuinely, I was so shocked. I am still in shock. I was so hyped, and I still to this day absolutely adore Fugitive of the Jadoon as an episode. Sure, okay, before you tell me in the comments, yeah, it didn't really lead anywhere, but if whisperings are to be believed, we may not have seen the last of Jo Martin's Doctor on screen. Yes, I know she's got Big Finish audio adventures. I'm talking about on screen. Just mark my words. Come back to this video in like 6 months' time. Maybe I'll look like an idiot. But from the moment that she revealed herself as an incarnation of the Doctor, she absolutely commanded the screen. Very contrastingly to Whittaker's Doctor, she was a sort of no-nonsense, real sense of authority.
You know what's good for you. Do not come for me again.
Her costume as well is so infinitely better than the 13th Doctor's. And she's got that like Doctor quirk with the shirt and then the glasses. Like this almost feels like a better version of the War Doctor than John Hurt. She still feels like the Doctor, but she feels like a distinctly different path. Like I would believe that her Doctor would go and face down the Daleks in the Time War. She's definitely a unique incarnation, and I don't know how well this characterization would fare if she was the main Doctor, but as like a cool additional Doctor, I think she works really well. I mean, we still never really got to fully explore her background. So if we did get more Jo Martin episodes, she may raise higher on this list or go lower. But that being said, in the short time that we did see Jo Martin in the role, she proved that she had everything it needed to make a good Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
Number 10. Once again, this is probably going to be controversial, but in number 10, I'm going to put William Hartnell's first Doctor. This incarnation was vastly different to what we're used to. He was gruff and quite harsh, and let's not forget, in his first episode, he tries to bludgeon a caveman to death. But it is worth noting, the first Doctor does go on quite the nice arc. There was a slow evolution into a much warmer, friendlier, twinkle-in-the-eye optimist, which really did shape the morals and beliefs of the character that we still have on TV to this day. And once again, if I'm just being flat out honest, I haven't seen all of the First Doctor's era. And that just simply is down to like the 60s production values and slower paced scripts, janky editing. Like, it's kind of difficult to watch sometimes. And don't get me wrong, I have a real appreciation for it. At the time, it was absolutely popping off. Like, if I was a kid in the 60s, that would be my favourite show. And it's once again not to say that the First Doctor's written badly at all. He has some of my favourite lines ever, like this bit from the Time Meddler. I don't know why, but I've always found it so funny and quotable.
What do you think of that now, eh? A Viking helmet? Maybe. What do you mean, maybe? What do you think it is, a space helmet for a cow?
And the little bit with the like, and that over there is a chair with a panda on it.
Up there is the scanner, those are the doors, that is a chair with a panda on it. Sheer poetry, dear boy.
Like, he's a bit of a weirdo, and I kind of love that. The grandfatherly aspect of this character is also something which has kind of been lost to time, but I'd love to see make a return. Like, having older Doctors is good fun, and I can't lie, I'm kind of here for, like, obviously we've had her as the Meep, so it doesn't work, but Miriam Margolyes as the Doctor would have been so much fun. Like, having a grandmother-type Doctor that's a bit bonkers, bit quirky, big goggles, that would have been cool. I mean, I'm saying that as if it can never happen, that should be the next Doctor. 16th Doctor, let's go. Goggled up old woman. What a strange sentence. Now, also for all you pedantic people out there, since I'm ranking all the Doctors, I'm going to quickly give a shout out to the other First Doctors. We've got Richard Hurdnall in the Five Doctors, who I say I'm giving a shout out to. I don't particularly buy his performance. I don't know. He's not great. Like, it feels like a bad William Hartnell impression, which I can't. That's what it is.
As it happens, I am the Doctor. The original, you might say.
I'm also going to mention David Bradley here because he plays the First Doctor, and what I like about David Bradley's performance, maybe I'm just biased because I did watch him do A Christmas Carol live on stage, and it was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Marley was dead.
But what I like about David Bradley's performance is it does still feel like the First Doctor, but it kind of feels like his own take on the First Doctor. And sure, some of the writing in Twice Upon a Time was a little bit on the nose with making him so 60s, like, morally.
Older gentlemen, like women, can be put to use.
The whole place could do with a good dusting. Obviously, Polly isn't around anymore.
He was so 60s orientated, but then when you actually watch a lot of the 60s episodes, I mean, it makes sense for the time. Oh, and because there's always one really pedantic person out there, I'm going to give a massive shout out to the hand double of the First Doctor. What a guy. Legend. Still, without William Hartnell and the First Doctor, there would be no Doctor Who. He might not be the most exciting incarnation by today's standards, but you literally wouldn't have the show without him. He remains a vital and fascinating part of the show's legacy. Number 9, he's the Doctor.
But probably not the one you're expecting.
I am almost positive Paul McGann would be way higher on this list if he had more screen time. But as it stands, he's only got one TV movie, one 7-minute mini-episode, and like a minute and a half of screen time in Power of the Doctor. But let's not lie, those brief minutes are brilliant. Night of the Doctor is genuinely some of the best Doctor Who ever. Okay, I'm gonna say it flat out, it's so cool.
On the bright side, I'm not a Dalek.
Who can tell the difference anymore?
He's effortlessly dripping in charisma.
Where are we going?
Back of the ship.
Why?
Because the front crashes first. Think it through.
And he has the authority while not feeling like a pompous arsehole. It is absolutely no wonder that fans have been begging to see the 8th Doctor again. This incarnation also is kind of responsible for bringing romance into Doctor Who. He ushered in the first ever companion Doctor on-screen kiss, which is kind of a staple of the show now. He said goodbye to the days of John Nathan Turner's no hanky-panky in the TARDIS rule, which I think no hanky-panky in the TARDIS is probably the single most British phrase ever. But for all those David Tennant lovers,
Yeah, still got it.
You like the 10th Doctor and Rose? Maybe you wouldn't have that if not for Paul McGann's 8th Doctor. So put some respect on his name. As I said, if he had more time, I'm sure he'd be higher on this list, but there's not too much to say about this Doctor, so for now, he's going to remain in 9th place. Number 8.
Someone tell me what the hell is going on here?
When I heard that Ncuti Gatwa would be taking on the role, I was genuinely convinced that he would swiftly become one of the best Doctors of all time.
I feel like he's going to add a very funny and energetic spark.
And he might bring a younger audience in.
I think it's going to be good. He looks the part. He's proven himself to be hilarious.
Excuse me? Can you not see that we are very upset here?
He's extremely talented.
But why does she call herself Little Cecily?
He's a very quirky man. I mean, look at the fashion sense. Everything about him screams the Doctor. Look at that smile. That's such a doctory smile. But after 1 season and 3 special episodes, I've really struggled to warm to this Doctor as much as I have with a lot of the others. Now, I do have to say, no shade to Russell, but when 15 is written by Moffat, in episodes like Boom or Joy to the World, he feels so much more doctory. I think one of the issues with 15 is that he doesn't quite have the dynamic layers that a lot of other Doctors have. It's hard to gauge what's really going on in his head. He hasn't been tested enough, and he just cries too often. Sure, the Doctor should cry, 100%. I mean, last summer I started working on like a really big video, which maybe will be released one day. It's talking about like Doctor Who and crying and arguing that the Doctor should cry, because the Doctor absolutely should cry. But if it's every episode, or sometimes 3 times an episode, the drama's gone. Despite the 15th Doctor only currently having 10 episodes, kind of 11 episodes, he has cried 22 times. That's 2 times per episode. That's mental. It breaks the tension, it undermines the stakes. If the Doctor cries at literally just like this random Silurian dying, like sure, show your emotion, show your caring side, I really like that, but like you've got to, you can't just cry at every turn, because crying is an extreme of emotion. And when you're playing a character, you've got to build to the extremes. You can't just jump straight to crying. Like, imagine in Empire of Death, if the first time we saw the 15th Doctor cry was when the entire universe had crumbled away. It would feel so much more impactful. Or even if we did it in Rogue when he thinks Ruby's dead. Like, it would highlight how much he cares for Ruby, whereas as it stands, he cries at a snot monster. He cries at the mention of the Toymaker. He's crying all over the place. And it's not just the crying that's all over the place, it's the whole sort of characterization.
Being very, very harsh.
Nice to meet you, Kelly.
Very harsh.
He's supposed to be this Doctor that's free of trauma because of the bi-generation.
I'm fine because you fix yourself. We're Time Lords. We're doing rehab out of order.
He went to therapy, but he's still just as damaged as he was before.
Doctor, you don't have to be like this.
I have to be like this because this is what I'm like. Onwards.
He doesn't open up to Ruby. He doesn't go and visit his family. I mean, he says that, like...
I talk about family in a way that I never did before, because you changed me.
Has she? Where's the change? Go back and visit Susan. He still doesn't open up. He still bottles up his feelings. So what did the bi-generation do? And before you go, look, Joe, therapy doesn't just fix you. Yeah, you're bang on. And if that's the route they want to take with this story, explore that. How cool would it be to see the 15th Doctor struggling with like a bit of a relapse in self-confidence? If he talked about it to Ruby and said like, I went through this therapy, but I'm dipping in it like back into my old ways. That could genuinely be a really interesting route to take, which would hit with a lot of people watching the show. And it would also make 15 feel so much more real. And I still don't buy, like, why do him and Ruby separate at the end of that episode? The whole I don't do families thing. You've just been through therapy with David Tennant being like, he calls himself an uncle to a family. You've just lived that life with Anita for a year. That's like a family. What do you mean you don't do family? But I've just had my rant, so I've got to counterbalance that with how insanely good the 15th Doctor is in his first moments.
I have bi-generated.
In the giggle, it may be an unmatched immediate response to a Doctor where I've just gone, oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
There's no such thing. bi-generation is supposed to be a myth, but...
Sure, I'm not a fan of the whole playing catch to save the universe, but I'm entirely sold on that scene because of how good Ncuti Gatwa is in the role. David Tennant is stood right there, and he manages to upstage him. How many years have we waited to see David Tennant come back? As soon as Ncuti comes on screen, I'm like, okay, David, stand aside. Genuinely, he was that good in his first moments as the Doctor. He oozes charisma, charm, confidence.
Yeah, myth, Mel. What do you think?
While still being a little bit alien. However, I'm also not a fan of the Doctor dancing in a club. I may be more on board with it if they stuck with that characterisation. If this was the Doctor post-therapy and he'd become a bit more human in that sense, I'd be on board with it. But also, I can't lie, I just don't see the Doctor clubbing. Maybe I'm just projecting my own opinions and thoughts here, but the Doctor should be like me in a club. He should sort of be there incredibly awkwardly and spend most of the time in the smoking area, not because he's smoking, but because it's where the interesting, weird stories are going to be told by random people. Like, I feel like that's the Doctor's vibe in a club. Would he be spinning around being cool? Sure, the Doctor can sometimes be cool, but I think more often than not, the Doctor needs to be a little bit of a social outcast. He feels a bit too human, seeing him spin around in the club. Make the Doctor weird again. Look, maybe 15 will climb higher in this ranking after his next season comes out, but for now, he's staying in the 8th spot. By the time you're watching this, his next season is going to be out in a matter of days. That's how long it's taken me to actually finish this video. I mean, the room behind me's completely changed. We've got pictures on the wall now. We've got all the Doctor Who stuff. That wasn't really relevant. I got completely sidetracked. My final point I want to make on the 15th Doctor is that having now seen the trailers for Season 2, there does seem to be conflict between him and Belinda. And I think this is really going to aid his character, because the whole next season's arc is about Belinda wanting to go home, getting Belinda home, having tensions between her and the Doctor not being able to get her home. I'm genuinely buzzing, because Russell does character work so well, and we're going to have shed loads of it. Fingers crossed. Let's just hope that he doesn't turn Omega into a cat or something in the Season 2 finale. Please don't. Number 7, Patrick Troughton. Well, Patrick Troughton's second Doctor. Troughton had the absolutely daunting task of proving that regeneration can work. And I'm not going to lie, he did so brilliantly. A-star.
Oh my word!
His scruffy, Chaplin-esque slapstick Doctor introduced the sort of humorous, playful element of the character, while maintaining a sharp wit and commanding presence beneath it all. He'd often play the fool in order to trick his enemies into thinking he's not a threat.
Oh my word.
When in reality, he was clearly the most intelligent person in the room. He was also so warm and caring when he needed to be. Like that scene with Victoria, where it's just... I'll just play a clip. He's so good in that.
I shall never forget him. Never.
No, of course you won't. But, you know, the memory of him won't always be a sad one. Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing.
Also, his TARDIS team of Jamie and Zoe absolutely slaps. Like, Jamie and him in particular, what a fun dynamic. The second Doctor also does feel really alien. Like, so many of his little mannerisms and, like, the clapping thing he does all the time. Like, there's so many iconic little things he does, it's just cool. His eccentricities also clearly had a very big impact on future incarnations of the character. The 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, cited him as a very big inspiration. I mean, you can see it from the bow tie alone.
And then I went back and picked a lot of the old Doctors and looked at their stuff, and I'd say probably Troughton. Just because of an episode called Tomb of the Cybermen, which is so good. If you haven't seen it, let's watch it.
And the, like, flapping his hands around when he talks, which incidentally, I'm doing now and always get told off in the comments for. So I'm going to challenge myself to not flap my hands around for the next 2 minutes. We'll see how long that lasts. Oh, and while we're talking about the second Doctor, I've just got to say thank God Patrick Troughton wasn't given creative control. No, really, look up some of the ideas he had for what he... Oh dear, Patrick! Oh, and while you're looking that up, I'm not one for gossip, but the urban legends surrounding his passing I'm not saying anything. Anyway, in the number 6 spot, we have the 14th Doctor. Tennant's ability to slip seamlessly back into this role after so long away shows the depth of his talent and genuine understanding of the character, making his return one of the highlights of New Who. This incarnation of the Doctor felt a lot older and more worn.
You're thin as a pin, love. You've been running on fumes.
That's what I keep saying.
Quite a stark contrast to the 10th Doctor, while still feeling like the same character. His story wasn't just about revisiting the past, it was also about reckoning with it. His dynamic with Donna brought so many new layers to their relationship, and it offered closure to one of the most heart-wrenching moments ever seen in Doctor Who. He'd also lost quite a lot of the ego that the 10th Doctor had, which was a nice but subtle change. While his return was brief, Tennant once again delivered an emotional and layered performance which reminds audiences why David Tennant was initially so successful in the role and probably had the most successful tenure of any Doctor ever. Much like the other Doctors on this list, if given more time, since he only had 3-hour-long specials, I'm sure 14 would be higher up. Like, there's never a line delivery that feels off. Actually, there is one moment that just baffles me. What on earth is going on with his face in this shot? I'm sorry, David. I love you. I genuinely do. You're great. But what's happening here? It looks like it's photoshopped. It genuinely just pulls me out of the scene and makes me laugh every time. Oh, and don't get me started on this scene. Like, the line, "Sarah Jane is gone, can you believe that?" It feels so hollow. I get what they were going for. Like, we all love Elizabeth Sladen. Sarah Jane Adventures was one of the biggest parts of my childhood. But that line and that scene, it just feels cheap. Like, I don't know, it feels like almost the definition of show don't tell. They're just telling the audience things. Anyway, we aren't here to rant about that. 14 is good. Very good. Oh, we've made it to the top 5 now. If you're still watching, there's got to be at least one of you out there. Comment your list of Doctors in the comments down below. Or stop the video now and guess my top 5. Whoever gets it right, you win nothing but a sense of enormous achievement. And if you are enjoying, please do feel free to like, comment, subscribe and share. It really helps me out a lot, and I really, really genuinely appreciate it. Please, thank you. In the number 5 spot, this one pains me to do. I feel like I'm betraying my childhood. Like, these top 5 Doctors are so good, they could almost go in any direction. They're basically interchangeable. But in the number 5 spot, we have Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. Despite stepping into the role at a very young age, Matt Smith he's just perfect from the off. 11 is an old man's soul trapped in a young man's body, balancing childlike wonder and awe with deep regret and sorrow, which on the whole makes for an incredibly compelling character. There's so many moments with the 11th Doctor where he doesn't even need to speak. He just gives this look, and everybody, like, you just know what he's thinking, you know what he's saying, and this look can make him feel like a 1,000-year-old alien despite him looking like a 12-year-old. I'll always love that scene in Deep Breath where Vastra talks to Clara about the fact that the 11th Doctor wore his face like she wears a veil, and it's to be accepted, and like, that's all, it's so cool. Stephen Moffat is just a genius. Like, in a similar vein to McCoy or Troughton, on the surface, he's doing what I'm doing again. I didn't stop flapping my hands around, but he looks like a bumbling fool, when in reality, he knows what he's doing. He's cold, he's calculated. He is a vengeful god. Like, he's so powerful. Look at Demon's Run. It's scary how much power the Doctor has. Because if the Doctor went evil, whoa, we'd be doomed. I also have to point out why I feel like I'm betraying my childhood by having Matt Smith in the number 5 position is he was my first proper Doctor. Sure, I'd seen the odd episode of Doctor Who here and there, but it was Matt Smith's seasons that really dragged me into the show. Like, I remember going to, like, Smith's Toys Superstore and getting an 11th Doctor action figure, and it was back on iPlayer as well. I think it was my first thing I ever watched on iPlayer was, like, Matt Smith Doctor Who, and the hype around, like, the Bells of St. John, and then the lead up into the 50th. Like, Series 7B is a controversial season for a lot of people, but it's one of my favourites. Sure, there's a few incredibly questionable moments like this.
Space of one.
Did he just... No.
One.
And what was the thought process behind this line?
Squeeze into a skirt that's just a little bit too tight. A little bit too tight.
But apart from that, the chemistry with his companions is just off the chart. I've always said I wish we got more of Victorian Clara and Eleven together because them two are just electric in The Snowmen. They lured me into the show and I haven't let go since. Oh, and fun fact, I've actually got a fez worn by Matt Smith. I own it. Okay, sure, he only wore it for 5 seconds when I gave it to him at a Comic-Con, but still, it counts. In the number 4 spot. I'm even considering here flipping number 3 and 4 around. Like, I've done that about 3 times now. It's so tricky to place them. But no, I'm going to stick it out. In number 4, we have number 4. The one and only jelly baby eating bohemian, Tom Baker. Look, I'm not going to lie, I'm half convinced that Tom Baker wasn't playing a character. I genuinely think that man is an alien.
I woke up about half an hour later to the noise of the old devil banging his stick. I leapt to my feet feeling miserable on discovering I was still alive.
I've read his autobiography in full, and he's not human.
I strained so hard in between wiping the big fellow's arse that I nearly lost the sight of my left eye.
His brain is just on another level.
With a tremendous flourish, as if she was opening the curtains of her apartment to admit Count Dracula, she parted the seams of my flies and tried to enter. Aggravated burglary, I'd call it. Like Mike Tyson ignoring the bell, she kept after my member.
One of my favourite Tom Baker things as well, it's not even in the show, just when he was asked to record this advert for like Doctor Who trading cards, he did this.
Official series of hardback books. Doctor Who, The Complete History, Edition 1, $1.99? Was that too naturalistic?
Like, what's that all about, Tom? What's going on? You cannot convince me that noise can be made by a human. He's an alien. I mean, talk about perfect casting. I mean, this man was born to play the Doctor.
What a wonderful butler. He's so violent. Hello. I'm called the Doctor.
Tom Baker just existing is a pure embodiment of the Doctor.
Oh, well... You're a beautiful woman, probably.
I also love seeing the occasional picture of him crop up on Facebook. He still has that Doctor twinkle in his eye. Like, this man just is the Doctor. He fights for what's right. He's a bit of an outcast. He doesn't particularly care what people think of him. He's got so much charisma. He's got so much confidence. He tells terrible jokes, whether that be to irritate the people who've captured him or to comfort his companions. His costume also, while being outlandish, doesn't fall into the 13th Doctor or 6th Doctor sort of category of bizarre. The 4th Doctor's scarf is genuinely one of the most, if not the most iconic piece of Doctor Who clothing ever. I also think it's probably the best costume the Doctor's ever had. Like, there's something so stupid about wearing such a giant scarf. It would be such a hindrance. But it just feels like a natural part of the 4th Doctor. And fun fact, the scarf was actually created by accident. A woman called Begonia Pope was commissioned by the BBC to knit a scarf for the incumbent Doctor. She was given an abundance of wool to choose from, and not knowing any better, she just kept knitting until all the wool was gone, which resulted in the ridiculously long scarf that we know and love. There's something so eccentric about it which just suits the Doctor's personality. Baker is clearly the most iconic Doctor of the classic era. If you ask anyone born in like the 70s, 80s, oh, like, who did you watch as the Doctor? All of them will go like, oh, that one with the scarf. Or they'll know him by name. Everybody loves Tom Baker. He was also my personal entrance to classic Who. I remember so clearly being given a DVD of The Talons of Weng Chiang by one of my dad's workmates. Because, like, obviously at the time I was really into the Matt Smith Doctor Who stuff. This guy was like, why don't you check out the classics? And it's that scene in the sewer where there's the giant rat. Like, Sure, the effects aren't great, but it terrified me when I first watched it. I'd have been about like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember the bit as well where like Mr. Sin stands up ominously and starts walking, and there's something so creepy. Like the gothic horror of the Tom Baker era is a tone which has almost never been matched again in terms of consistency and just the ability to scare kids. Like, I very, very rarely, if at all, found myself scared by New Who, but as a kid, imagery like The Watcher in Logopolis, just standing there, it stuck with me to this day. Like, I genuinely remember feeling so scared of it. It's just brilliant. The only downside, maybe, because I've given a lot of positives about the Fourth Doctor, the only downside I can think of is he doesn't really get an arc. Like, his character's great, but he doesn't really go on an emotive journey. But then I suppose for the era, most characters on TV in this sort of nature didn't need a character arc. So this is probably just a nitpick. And I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Does he need an arc? Like, he works. But all this talk of an arc brings us to the next Doctor, who has one of the most defined arcs in the show's history. In at number 3, we have Christopher Eccleston. Series 1 of the revival from 2005 is genuinely one of the best series of television ever made. The journey that the Ninth Doctor goes on is exactly the sort of character arc that the recent season 1 has been missing. His grounded, more war-torn Doctor gave the show an emotional core which has been built upon ever since. A mix of humour and hidden trauma that, I say hidden.
Kill yourself.
Humour and trauma
Rid the universe of your filth. Why don't you just die?
Made this single season genuinely unforgettable. The Ninth Doctor was tasked with bringing back the show, a show that genuinely had just died. The British public were laughing at it.
Why did you cancel the show?
I thought it was rubbish. I thought it was pathetic. These cardboard things probably clonking across the floor, trying to scare kids, you know, you just sit and laugh at it.
But Eccleston and co succeeded with flying colours. Like, it's so good. And it genuinely, like, if season 1 or series 1 wasn't that good, we wouldn't still be on air 20 years later. It's such a shame that there were all the production troubles and drama behind the scenes.
What would have to happen for that to become a reality?
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back.
Because seeing more of the Ninth Doctor, giving him more of an arc, letting him complete that arc, could have cemented him as the best incarnation of all time. He's so good, and his dynamic with Rose, like, you completely buy their friendship. You completely understand how they fit into each other's lives. And like I was saying earlier about the Doctor crying, like, Eccleston doesn't even cry, but you can just see on his face in that moment in Bad Wolf where he thinks Rose dies. How impactful is that? How brilliant a performance, how brilliant the writing is. It's just impeccable. And sometimes there is more, like, he's so empty, he can't even cry. It almost looks like he's given up. And I think that's why people care about Doctor Who. The characters and the relationships that they have. Eccleston just, he's so good. While often seen as a critically mixed episode of TV, Boomtown is genuinely one of my standout Doctor Who stories of all time. The exploration of the Doctor's morality.
Because once in a while, on a whim, you happen to be kind.
Only a killer would know that.
The funniness, the goofiness.
She'd love to have a chat, but she's up to her eyes in paperwork.
She's climbing out the window, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
The campiness of the whole thing.
What did I ever do to you?
You tried to kill me and destroy this entire planet.
Apart from that.
The focus on who the Doctor is as a person, and that scene in the cafe, it's just so good.
Playing with so many people's lives, you might as well be a god.
Genuinely peak Doctor Who, in my opinion. It's that heavy focus on the Doctor and exploring why he does what he does that makes the Ninth Doctor stand out so much. Although he only stayed for one series, his influence is undeniable. So he takes a very deserving 3rd place on the list. He was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's a shame my northern accent isn't fantastic. But that takes us to the final two. Which is which? Who's who? I almost broke into song there. If this was written by Russell T Davies nowadays, there'd have been a musical number there. But I'm not going to sing for you. I know you're very disappointed. In second place, we have, drumroll please, place your bets, the Echo Doctor from Doctor Who Echo's Destiny.
Well, that was exhilarating.
Created by Davros to go and take down the Doctor, her wit,
That's a pretty old cyber model. What, did you run out of money or something?
a natural charm,
Sorry, didn't I mention? I'm the Doctor.
What do you mean I can't use my own fan film Doctor? But she's really good, I promise. Ugh. Fine. See, I'm really good at advertising because that was an incredibly subtle plug for our Doctor Who fan film series Echo's Destiny, which you can watch 3 episodes of out now. The 4th and final part is coming very, very soon, so please subscribe, turn on the notification bell, go and check out the trailer, or go and watch the full season at the end of this video. I say season, they're like 3 separate films, soon to be 4 separate films. But it's fun. Go and watch it. Sorry, back on track. See, I didn't have a sponsored segment in this video. That counts as my sponsorship. In the number 2 spot, oh yes, it's David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. His boundless energy, infectious charm, and heartbreaking ability to reel us in with some extra emotional depth makes him go down as one of the greatest icons of British television. Few actors have made a character quite their own like David Tennant, seamlessly switching between light-hearted and camp to raw and devastating intensities. Hair trembles with emotion. His tenure was packed with some of the greatest episodes the show has ever seen. The dynamic between his companions is just brilliant. I'm sorry, him and Donna together are just A-tier.
You just want to mate.
I just want a mate.
You're not mating with me, sunshine.
They really made the show feel accessible for everyone. It's called like a space opera, technically. It's kind of soap opera-y, but with the sci-fi elements. Like, people like my mum, for example, never really got confused with this era. Like, if they didn't understand the specifics, it didn't matter because they understood the emotions of the characters. And how many emotions does this era pump out of you? The 10th Doctor also goes on such a cool arc. Sure, I'd have liked them to explore the Time Lord Victoria's stuff a little more, but seeing the 10th Doctor have that evil streak in him, oh, it's chilling. And the ultimate conclusion in Series 4 of Davros showing the Doctor himself. Sure, the Doctor's the man who never would. He doesn't use weapons, but he fashions his friends into weapons. He turned Martha into a soldier. There's so much depth here. And I like as well that he's quite flawed, because incarnations like the 13th Doctor never really get called out on their flaws, whereas the 10th Doctor, the characters in the narrative say, you can't be doing that, mate. And I think it's so much more interesting to actually have conflict and characters like Donna shouting at him in Fires of Pompeii is a standout moment.
You've got to go back! Doctor, I'm telling you, take this thing back!
Martha choosing to up and leave at the end of the Master 3-parter. It's all so believable, so real feeling, and just brilliant. And while the first half of The End of Time may be somewhat questionable, the final 40 minutes of part 2 are just peak. The Master choosing to save the Doctor doing his little farewell tour to all these brilliantly written characters. It's just a testament to how good this era was, and it also shows how brilliant Stephen Moffat was in making sure that the show could continue afterwards, because you get to the end of Time and you're almost like, I don't want any other Doctor ever. Tennant's so good, go away, Matt Smith. But obviously, Matt Smith lures you in and, oh, Doctor Who's a good show. But yeah, point is, before I keep yapping, David Tennant is brilliant in the role and very deservedly takes the number 2 spot. Tennant, like the next inclusion on this list, do feel like the modern Tom Bakers. There's something about the eyes, or the eyebrows. He could take bottle tops off with those. In the number 1 spot, to absolutely no one who's watched this channel for a prolonged period of time's surprise, we've got Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. Capaldi's Doctor, for me, is just the absolute pinnacle of this character. Without hope, without witness, without reward. All of that stuff. Series 10 is my favourite series of the show. Him, Bill and Nardole, best TARDIS team. Capaldi perfectly captures the alien nature of the Doctor, while also delivering some of the most profound things that this show has ever seen. Sure, it gets a bit memed on Twitter now because people use it in insensitive contexts, but that Zygon inversion speech is just sublime.
When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die.
His speech in The Doctor Falls is also just brilliant to see. It genuinely does just sum up everything about why we love this character. I've also kept harkening on about how much I love it when the Doctor goes on an arc throughout their tenure, and I think 12 probably has the most defined, clear, and genuinely brilliant arc of any Doctor. From his grumpy, no-nonsense attitude, to his gradual softening into a genuinely nice, but also deeply broken character. All of this combined contributes to the most compelling version of this character. And I really do think it makes a difference if the actor playing the Doctor grew up watching the show. Like, it's no surprise that Tennant and Capaldi are here at the top of the list. They were both massive nerds. Capaldi even got invited to set because of how much he loved Doctor Who, and he used to send them all these emails and write into the magazine. And as I said, he's got that bit of Tom Baker in him. He can be sharp and distant in one moment, and then the closest and most warm person in the next. His relationship with both Clara and Bill, apart from Tennant and Donna, there's nothing that matches them. And that's not even mentioning the dynamic he shares with Missy. I firmly believe that the Master deserves a proper redemption story, and having the Doctor and Missy explore that, and then the Master shoots himself in the back, literally and metaphorically, and it just... oh, it's so good. And it also brings up once again the eternal debate of, are the Doctor and the Master lovers or brothers? I mean, back in 2021, I was actually going to make an entire video exploring this because obviously the original text, like John Pertwee and Roger Delgado, they were going to be revealed to be brothers. But I think when you get into New Who, with John Sim and David Tennant, it almost feels like more of like a lover's arc. Especially with Capaldi and Missy, it's basically undeniable. I did actually ask the cast of the fan film at the time their opinions on Are the Doctor and the Master brothers. Just watch this little clip. Are the Doctor and the Master brothers, or are they lovers? Like, what's their dynamic like? More like brothers.
Say it in unison.
Or lovers.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Lovers! You've heard it here first, folks. They are lovers. Ultimately, Capaldi's Doctor embodies everything I love about this character, even down to the fashion sense. I've told this story on the channel many times before, but throughout my 2 years of being in sixth form, which admittedly they were kind of blurred by COVID, but when I did get the chance to go in, I would always be dripped out in Capaldi gear. I'd have the Capaldi coat, buttoned shirt, jumper, just the look, and the sunglasses. There's got to be a pair of the sunglasses around somewhere. But point is, I still wear them to this day. At the heart of his character is just understanding kindness.
Be kind.
And not always being able to do the right thing, but always trying to do the right thing. And although it does drag a little bit, his final speech, although it's a bit on the nose, but it does perfectly outline everything that's good about his Doctor. For me, without question, Peter Capaldi is the best Doctor of all time. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the video. As ever, if you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, subscribe and share. You know the drill. And now that the video's ended, I do want to say, please support me on Patreon. You can get exclusive videos. There's a bunch of different tiers. Link will be in the description and at the end of the video. If you don't want to support me on Patreon, absolutely no worries, no pressure at all. But I am going to pressure you to subscribe. It's free. It's the click of a button. Obviously, if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. But I am going to tell you to comment. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Confused Adipose YouTube channel.
I will destroy you. She's not seen a single episode.
No, I've watched your episodes.
Keep these sonic screwdrivers.
What else am I saying about the film? Don't watch this one.